Hi, welcome to the show. Today I have with me an educational innovator. And yes, she's innovating by going old school. Yeah, she wants to start a one-room schoolhouse, and she's calling it Peace Valley School. With me I have Molly Lord-Garrettson. Wow, you are brave. You're starting a school from scratch. Tell me how that got started in your mind.
Well, it originally got started with the senior portfolio. I've been a high school teacher for 15 years, and I realized at the end of every year, my students lacked certain life skills, like how to sew on a button, or even to know whether something needed to be dry cleaned or not, or how to do laundry, that I thought they needed before they went off into the world, whether it was to their own apartment for the first time or off to college. And so we put together this thing as a class called the Life Portfolio. And I'd give them certain tasks, and they'd go out in the world and get a sewing kit and bring in something ripped from the bottom of their closet. And we'd sew up tears and sew up buttons on our last weeks of school after all of the tests had been taken before graduation.
So I'm hearing it was perhaps curriculum driven. You saw things that you wanted, that you thought, that you saw that kids needed and responded to. And you wanted to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so this is your school, and by golly, you've created this curriculum that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. But let's back up. So you've had quite a bit of experience teaching. Tell us about that.
Well, I grew up in McMinnville. I went to Cook Elementary and McMinnville Middle School and McMinnville High School. And then I have my undergraduate degree in political science and speech communication from University of Washington, and my master's in teaching from the University of Virginia. And I've been teaching, like I said, for 15 years in anything from special ed to advanced placement to international baccalaureate, including 2 years in Chennai, India. I traveled abroad a lot, so that informed the school model as well. There's a huge global and international aspect to our little school.
Well, you're bringing a lot to this, a lot of background from around the world. And yet, like I said in the opening, it's kind of an old-fashioned idea. One-room schoolhouse. Why don't we have that anymore? I haven't heard of a lot of these. Are there a lot of these things, these types of schools?
There's a new wave of school called the micro school, and that's technically what we are, because it's fewer than 100 students. We only have 12 students. But instead of saying we're just old school, one thing that we call in our family, we call ourselves new old fashioned. We take all of the great stuff from technology, which makes a school like this possible. So you can take biochemistry and be on a farm at the same time, and practice a lot of those biochemical skills in the garden and in the kitchen. And it's easier to integrate now because we have technology. And I think that more people will go this way. That's our hope. We are creating a model that is meant to multiply. We're not going to grow beyond 12 students, but if you find another teacher in another farm, Peace Valley School can help you start one. It's perfect for rural communities that want upper echelon private institutions that can send the kiddos to college without having to send them away from their rural communities.
Now, you gave us a brief bio of your experience, but it sounds like quite a journey to get back here to Yamhill County. Why are you back? What did you see that said, yeah, I want to go back, that's where I want to be? And why? Yeah, why?
Yamhill County is very unique. Everybody on my board is from Yamhill County.
The board of your school?
The board of the school, and most of them graduated with me in 1996 from McMinnville High School. Some from 95, and the older members of our board are educators that are parents of students that graduated from McMinnville High School. We're all very much a part of this community. And my husband and I came back here to raise our daughter, Grace, because we grew up here, and this is where we wanted to put down our roots, but also because it's such a dynamic county. There's so much local wisdom. The only reason a school like this works is when you have local artists, mentors, businessmen to come and talk about real life skills that need to be practiced in the real world. And I've talked to many restaurateurs, business owners that wished students could do certain things, like show up on time. Once you graduate from high school and once you even get out of college, you show up on time, meet deadlines, be a part of what you're doing. And I think those are skills that we need to practice. But there are also fundamental skills that we need to practice, like we always joke about being able to drive a stick. That's a very important thing to be able to do in Yamhill County. And I know a lot of business owners who have to teach their new employees how to drive a stick and ruin a few transmissions that way. So that's a requirement at Peace Valley School.
When you have a car dedicated just for that, I hope?
It's actually a pickup truck that was specifically chosen by the person who's going to be teaching. He's a local mentor as well. He runs a...
And the students will start that at what age?
Well, they'll start it when they get their permit.
Okay.
But it's also not every student has to do it at the same time. The school is designed around individual learning paths along with group problem solving and projects. So depending on what a student's learning goals are for that year, maybe it's a stick shift year, maybe it's not. It could be a beekeeping year. It could be their focus is going to be on food and food delivery and figuring out farm to table aspects because they want to be a chef and they want to understand how food networks work. And so.
You're addressing grade levels about 6 to 12, is that
Middle
right?
and high school, yeah.
Kids may be as young as 10, but your course material, your focus is
Our standards are middle and high school standards. Yeah.
middle and high school. So you have 6 grades there, or 7. And if you have 12 kids, you may have 1 or 2 or 3, or they could clump in. What I'm getting at is that there's a lot of variety there, a lot of diversity in age and interest. And it almost seems like if you have all these kids in the room with all these interests, you're almost juggling your time, your focus, the subject material. I've often wondered how one-room schoolhouses operate.
There's a technical term for it.
Well, let me hear
It's
it.
called differentiation.
Okay.
It's been written about a lot by Carol Tomlinson. She's pretty much the lead differentiator. But the idea is actually in mainstream age-peered classes right now too, because in a classroom of 30 students, even in one subject, you may have many different reading levels, many different contexts of understanding of the subject matter, and many different levels of willingness to interact with that particular subject matter. Some kids think of themselves as a writing person and not a math person, and they've self-identified that way, especially in middle and high school. So the idea is that you adapt the lesson to where the student is and not pull the student to the subject, but guide them based on what their individual goals are. So it actually works out better if you've got 12 students, for me, in this model, if you've got 12 students of differing ages, abilities, understandings, passions, because then they can take their passion and teach somebody else. And the older can teach the younger, and the younger can teach the older, and they also practice the most fundamental skill that we practice every day at Peace Valley School, which is communication across differences. So those differences are learning experiences as well. So basically, each individual student has a set of learning goals for the year that's based on whatever their age and experience might be. It's really based on what they need to learn by the end of that year, and we discuss that. And then all those learning goals can be integrated into major projects, whether it's small group or large group projects, such as building a tiny home, fixing a transmission, baking a souffle. Any of these things can combine the learning standards that you would see in any list of standards, like the Common Core or the Oregon State standards.
So I know that you are very talented and have a large breadth of interest. How are you with an automatic transmission?
I'm pretty good.
Are you?
I'm pretty good. I think my husband and father-in-law would disagree, but I haven't killed one yet.
I guess what I was getting at, there might be something you don't know.
There's lots of things I don't know.
And you're going to have people coming in to help out.
Local wisdom.
And this board, your school, how many people are on your board?
Oh, 5 or 6.
Okay. They're going to be helping with that, or they could constantly like back up and out into the community for you and supporting you?
Look, and you're one of the people in our community that knows pretty much everyone.
Okay.
You just are. I mean, there are these pillars of our community, the Yamhill County community, and they have had either a business dealing or friendship, or our kids went to school together. We're all connected in this county, and we all take care of each other. And one of the ways that we do that is by teaching each other. And I think we can find local wisdom for anything. For instance, the Vinci Project is one of our projects that we're going to be working on the first year. And that is to design and build a drone using 3D printers. And there's a lot that goes into that. But the students that are interested in this particular project will start at the very beginning, and that's with Leonardo da Vinci, and then move on through. So it won't take just a semester or a year. This might take 2 or 3 years, and these students are younger students, and so that's going to be part of their journey, is stumbling through and making mistakes kind of in the old school way of learning, but with these local mentors. We have a drone manufacturer in town, we have an aviation facility in town, and we have aviation experts in town, and we have multitude of 3D printers from jewelry shops all the way to the Evergreen Museum that everybody wants to share in what they know. And we have those connections because we all grew up here, and because even if you didn't grow up here, if you show up in Yamhill County, then the first thing somebody does is invite you to the Chamber of Commerce meeting, or invite you out for coffee, or you join the community-supported parenting of Yamhill County, or you join the Rotary. And that's just part of Yamhill County. The school couldn't exist if we didn't have local wisdom, if we didn't have local mentors coming in.
You mentioned Rotary. Yes, you came to Rotary and you put on the presentation, and that's where I saw that I thought, boy, I would love to have you on the show to put out this message that you gave to us that day. I was so inspired by what you did. And you mentioned transmissions, printing 3D printers to build drones, changing oil.
Yeah.
Is something that kids will have an opportunity to learn to do.
Cooking their own lunches and snacks, planning those meals, and going to the grocery store.
Tell me about how academics can be brought into these activities.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a real school with a real classroom, and that's where we can bring in more technology. But basically, we work on a mastery system. So that means students will keep on at a skill until they've mastered the skill, instead of getting a D or a C and then moving on to the next thing, because they really build and they need to be practiced daily. So a given student would come in and pick up perhaps a tablet and look up their agenda on our digital classroom, and they will have a list of tasks that they need to do that day. We'll have worked that all out together, either as a group or the student with me individually, and they'll go on their learning path. So they may have some independent time to study math facts, or practice FOIL, or whatever it is they need to do to meet their learning goals in any subject, maths, reading independently, or reading comprehension, working in social studies. And then they may work together in a group, and then we'll have our morning meeting at about 10 a.m. And use a really important method of communication in business right now, Scrum or Agile, to decide what we're going to do as a group and what we're going to do apart. And then, so throughout the day, they'll be learning the basic skills, and then the lessons and projects will be practicing those skills. And they'll all be practicing different skills on the same project, depending on what their learning path is.
A checklist. I like checklists.
Yeah, and they're important to practice with too.
If I had a checklist for my day with all these things that I already agreed that I am interested in and want to do, I want to go to your school. I guess that's what I'm saying. And how you can, taking up to 12 is your model, maybe a few more, a few less.
No, just 12. Can't go more than 12.
Okay.
A few less is fine.
And you're enrolling now. You have about half of that.
Yes, already. They already have their acceptance letters, so we started with rolling enrollment. So we'll keep on taking applications until we've filled our classroom.
I think that you're going to have a lot of applicants. This just sounds so incredible. Now, let me just address cost. If there's only 12 people families paying tuition to support you and all this curriculum and equipment and all these things, it sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money. You will.
It's lower than a lot of the market. It's $10,000 a year. We have a few minor fundraisers throughout the year, but that operating budget of $120,000 a year pays for everything, including an international trip. We're looking at Machu Picchu for this year.
Including an international
Well,
trip.
when the group is small
Yeah.
and your venue is a farm and a classroom on a farm, then a lot of those costs, those overhead costs that larger schools have are taken out.
And this is at your house? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the building's
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah, yeah.
The
It was really fun to design.
Machu Picchu, we talked about getting ready to travel. What's that going to be like?
No, the students have to go through every single part of that. This isn't your traditional spring break trip where you show up with matching backpacks. You have to, they have to research. The first year, not so much is what we're looking at, but for the following years, they'll need to research where they want to go, what kinds of things they'd like to learn on that trip. They'll have to work together to reach a consensus on where they're going to go. They'll have to get their passports, work with their parents to get their passports, and any other visas they may need to go. For instance, if we went to Cambodia, we'd need a visa, or India, we'd need a visa. And we would work either with a travel coordinator or just amongst ourselves once we get good at it. With all the things that have to go with traveling, like packing and first aid kits and packing light. That's a very difficult thing for younger people to do, but when you're traveling long distances. And then they'll learn how to be on a plane for 15 hours and all of the things that go along with that. There's a lot of, again, I'm going to say the word daily practice that goes
Yeah.
with living an international life. So.
Okay. So we've seen how school is, we've talked a lot about how it's maybe different. Peace Valley Schools is different from our traditional, or what do you call our basic education system,
Yeah.
a public education system. How is it the same? I guess I'm talking about, are these kids going to come out accredited and in step and in sync and ready to compete on the world stage and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing? How do you address that?
That's an important part of our school, is that we will be giving a real transcript that has the course names on them. That been talking to registrars around the state and the local school districts are about making sure that our transcript will work so that a student can laterally transfer. Say a student's going to our school and wants to go to Dayton High School for FFA, or wants to be at Mac High full-time, then they can make that transfer smoothly. The counselor can look at that transcript and know exactly what classes to put them in. And we also want students to be able to matriculate to universities, which means the university gets from us exactly what they would get from any other school: a transcript, test scores, course descriptions that match their concept of a course. And we are seeking accreditation through Northwest Association of Independent Schools and the mainstream Northwest Accreditation Unit. I always want to call it Accelered, but that's not what it's called.
And will that happen ahead of time, or as the year is going on, people will be observing to accredit?
It's a 5-year process, so any school that starts out needs to start that process. Needs to hit the
Advanced
ground
Ed?
running. Advanced Ed, thank you. So through Advanced Ed and through NWAS, we have a 5-year process. So we show them our model, we show them our curriculum, they come and observe, and at the end of that 5 years, we get accreditation.
Okay.
And any school that wants to become an accredited school does. Not all schools choose accreditation, but we do.
Well, let's put up some images here. Paul, would you bring up our first image? Let's make this, give us some visuals of what this is going to look like.
Yeah, it's the classroom.
I know our first, okay, so what have we got here?
So that was our original concept. That's the loft at Odd Duck Farm, my farm.
Odd Duck.
Yep. It's a 5-acre farm, and we designed the house, my husband and I, to have the classroom in it. So that's the upstairs loft, and my concept of how I wanted it to look. In the corner there is with the white tent is the International Place Station. It's a little reading nook. The idea is for everybody to have comfortable seating. Like each student has the kind of seating that they want, that's best for their learning. So you'll see there are multiple levels. There's the window seat by the windows. There's a horseshoe seminar table. There's standing desks, which are adjustable in height and can flip up and be rolled away, and beanbag chairs. And in that reading nook, there'll be a clue as to some place in the world, the name of an airport or the name of a favorite dish, and students will have to do an inquiry lesson and ask a question and get an answer and put up their question and answer inside that tent. And once we find out where it is, we'll contact that location and drum up a relationship with a student in that place or a school in that place, maybe even visit it. That's how it turned out. It looks pretty
Yeah, a
much
lot like that
exactly like
drawing.
the drawing. And it's
Wow.
a comfortable, warm space. I really love the light. I think that's a very important part of bringing the outside in. But a really special part about Peace Valley School is how much time we spend outside. That's another difference between our middle and high school and other middle and high schools, is that we have a lot of outdoor exercise time. You can see the fields through those windows.
There's the windows with the window seat. On the other side.
And those are the standing desks, which are de rigueur. In education now, kids need to be active. They need their bodies to be active. And I find a standing desk is very useful for me when I'm working throughout the day on a long-range project.
And another angle.
Yeah, and this classroom was built by volunteers, that cabinetry and the bookshelves.
So here we are, it's almost June, and then July, August, and then you're going to start in September. So June, July, August, you're ahead of, I mean, the paint's dry, and it's 3 months ahead. I would think you'd be scrambling at the last minute to get it ready. You are, I mean, it's furnished, the cushions are there.
Just got to put up the books and the posters, yeah.
Amazing. Now, you've been working, I don't want to, you've been working for a long time for this, and you've had to, there are some barriers to this. Tell us about the barriers you've overcome to have this be where it's at right now.
Well, no one opens middle and high schools in their homes. So my
Yeah.
first barrier is that everybody assumes that I'm opening a preschool or a daycare when I say I'm opening a school at my house.
Yeah.
And so that adds another 15 minutes to a conversation. And then I explain the whole model and we move on. But zoning was very easy with Yamhill County.
Good.
That's another numbers thing, since we're fewer than 16 people. It just changed, I've learned a lot from that. But the most difficult thing for me has been the stuff that I don't know about as a teacher. Like designing a classroom and designing curriculum, I've been doing that for a really long time. Filing the paperwork to become a nonprofit organization with the IRS, that was difficult. The getting 501c3 status and becoming a nonprofit, it took a lot of time and a lot of consulting with local experts to get all that paperwork done and done right, but we did. And now we're a nonprofit organization and we're very proud of ourselves.
And did you say you've been working other jobs to support this
Yeah.
as well? So
Yeah.
you've had the overwhelming task of pulling this together and at the same time not quitting your
day job, yeah.
It might have been a night job.
No,
to support
well,
your-
I teach AP psychology and U.S. history, and I'm also an affiliate adjunct professor at Southern Oregon University. And those jobs align along with some online curriculum alignment jobs and standards alignment jobs. And I've written some curriculum for some online programs. Those were my extra jobs that I took on so that we could all function as a family while building a school.
Yeah, so I think that's what I was referring to as a barrier, the required dedication, commitment, energy, focus that you've been doing for how long now?
Well, it takes 2 years from the time that I honestly, I got it off of Pinterest. I wanted to start my own school, and there was an actual article I found on Pinterest that said how to start your own private school. And it was like an about.com slideshow, and it was very helpful. It's actually my most repinned pin on my Pinterest board. Everybody wants to start their own private school, so
I can see why.
yeah.
Let's go to the more pictures.
Sure.
Paul, what have we got next for pictures? All right.
So this is me teaching some students at Peace Valley about the broody box. I'm putting a chicken in the broody box because she's decided to go broody, which means she wants to sit on her eggs instead of letting us have them for breakfast. And Elise, our chicken whisperer, is explaining to Sophia, who's a little trepidatious about chickens here, basically what this chicken Chloris is up to. She's
Chloris?
Chloris was the name of the chicken. And that's us in the garden. Some looks like Elise just picked a carrot. But the important thing about Peace Valley School is how much we are outside. The students they plan the garden, they raise the food, and it's not just, okay, kids, this is garden week. It's always garden week on a farm. So there's always something to do outside. And when middle school and high school bodies need to get restless, then they can go outside, choose an outdoor job, and they can dig in the dirt, they can take a long walk down the road and work on road maintenance. There's a lot that they can do outside with their bodies, so they don't feel so restless.
Now, the school hasn't started yet. Yeah, we've got inaction here. So you've been doing some trial teaching.
Yeah, well, you're not the only person who wants to go to Peace Valley School.
So people are elbowing their way. They're getting there
I
early.
always have people at my house, especially young people, because there's a lot to learn outside, and not a lot of places to be outside.
So, Yamhill County, I've noticed that, and I've heard our new city manager that just was hired, Jeff Towery, I think his name is, he said that one of the things that stood out for him is how friendly people are here, how generous they are. And I think you've talked about that people in the community are wanting to participate in the success of our youth and the success of this your endeavor. So you've reached out to the community how?
Well, I came and spoke to Rotary
Yes.
and spoken to Seroptimist. We've had a number of fundraisers. We have a very busy online presence with community-supported parenting of Yamhill County and in Newburgh. But mostly it's been word of mouth, face-to-face. Me or a board member sits down and says, hey, we invented this school. I really love your art. Would you like to teach pottery? So like Amanda Pawanka, who's been on your show, she is going to teach some design courses to kids who are interested in that. I'll be teaching sewing and knitting and other things that I'm interested in. But there are so many people who have just come up and either offered some stuff from their home that they think that would be really valuable in the classroom, or offered their advice, offered to teach a seminar. I have a former student of mine that works in social justice is going to fly out for a seminar about how to use social networking for social justice, which is just a really on-point thing that we're experiencing right now in Yamhill County, and this is a national person that happened to have been in one of my classes once. So we can pull in resources from outside, but we don't need to, because everybody's here in Yamhill County, and they all want kids to be successful. They definitely want them to have real life skills and be able to practice real life skills. So I've mostly just gone to the local organizations and asked for mentorships, asked for support.
When's the first day of school?
September 5th.
And you'll have been working with the students before that. It sounds like they're going to
I'm
have
already working with
a
one.
curriculum kind of laid out and designed.
Personally for them.
Yes, on the first day of school.
Yeah.
And we have spring break, Christmas vacation, standard weekends. Peace Valley School, how'd you pick that name?
Well, everything around here has valley in it, but it was originally going to be called a number of different academies. Jane Addams Academy was the next runner-up, but my first job teaching was at Jeb Stuart High School in Falls Church, Virginia, which is now, they're in the process of arguing about whether to change their name because it's a Confederate general. And we talked about it when I was teaching there, because we wanted to call it Peace Valley School because it was on Peace Valley Lane in Falls Church, Virginia. And it was my first school. It's the school I cut my teeth at. Most teachers have a soft place in their heart for their first school. So I named it Peace Valley School after Peace Valley Lane. But people in town that know me know that I'm a peace activist, and I'm a member of Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting. I'm a co-chair of that. So if you know the Purple Bear around,
I've taken the pledge.
I work with the human trafficking awareness with Seroptimist, and
wonderful.
I care very much about peace and peacemaking, and social justice is a big focus of the school, so it seemed to make sense.
Beautiful. Let's see, I see peacevalley.school.org. If people want to find out more, introduce their child to this concept of perhaps they might want to do this.
Or if they'd like to be a mentor, if they have an idea of how we could make our school really special, I'm always open.
You're looking for people that want to play.
Yeah. You want to come and play? You want to come and eat from our garden?
Thank you so much for being here. Time's up. Can you believe it? I'm so excited to see how this unfolds. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.